everybody, welcome to MORE-VILLE, ORVILLE, the podcast that reviews episodes of the ORVILLE, everyone's favorite sci-fi comedy. I'm Mike L, and I'm joined by G.I. Jolie.
Hello, I'm here.
And Champion.
Hey guys, how you doing? Also, I want to say thanks for not kicking me off the podcast yet. Like, this is still very new for me. I hope I'm finding my legs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, no, I get it. Yes.
For
trust
anyone,
me, you're doing better. Huh?
Nothing.
You know, it's one thing I got to say about the show, because I am rewatching these episodes before we review them, but I remember them, like, some TV shows when I watch them, like, for example, Breaking Bad, I have, like, almost total recall of every episode because I thought it was so good. And you know, I mentioned before
even
that
the
I'm
last
watching...
season? Come on.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But anyway...
I've erased the last season of that show from my memory.
Oh, why? Anyway, we'll talk later. It's another podcast. But
He's going to fight me later.
But Star Trek Deep DS9, I'm watching it right now and I'm liking it, but there are some parts where I just zone out. I just tune out. With this show, though, it's been, I think, is it 3 years since these first season episodes aired, and I feel like I just watched them. You know, like, again, it's just, you can love Discovery all you like, but Discovery is so, it's like it doesn't want me to watch it. That's the feeling I get. I'm watching the show. You guys don't want me to watch you. Okay, fine, I'm done. This show wants me to watch it. That's how I see it. Do you guys feel that?
Yeah.
It's a far more friendly and approachable show than Discovery, certainly.
Yeah.
It certainly wants me to laugh, live, laugh, and love more.
Yes, good point. It also wants to engage us more, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is, again, it's another podcast if we're going to talk about this just Discovery, but it's like, I'm trying to find a comparison. It's like watching Batman in the 60s, and then immediately the next Batman is like Christopher Nolan's Batman, where something that you were used to being colorful and fun and hopeful completely takes, does a 360 turnaround, and everyone's dying.
I would compare it more from, like, to go from Adam West to Zack Snyder, but that's a whole other discussion.
Well, at least Zack Snyder likes the comics.
He said he hates superheroes. But anyway, we'll talk about that. What's that?
When I say like, I mean, he actually references the source material.
Okay. Which
doesn't necessarily mean you like it, but...
Anyway, back to the ORVILLE. Yeah. So there is such a thing as entertainment value. This show has it. We're going to talk about episode 6 of the ORVILLE, which is titled Krill, which is also the name of the... I guess this is the main alien race in this show. They're kind of like the Klingons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Champ Ian, would you like to tell us what happens in this episode of the ORVILLE, episode 6?
Let's give it a try. I'll try to be a little bit less meandering through this little synopsis here. The long and the short of it, the Krill are the main enemy in the show, and the Planetary Union wants to open a dialogue with them to try and broker some sort of peace. So, Captain Ed Mercer and Gordon Malloy, whose name I remembered this time for the first time ever, they sneak aboard a Krill ship using holographic disguises. They disguise themselves as Krill, and their mission is to find a copy of their holy book, because the Krill are a very religious-driven species. And they feel that by finding a copy of this book, which I believe is called the Ankara, which sounds a lot like Encarta, which is a Microsoft CD-ROM encyclopedia from the 90s.
Encyclopedic.
So they find a copy of this book, and they take pictures of it to send back home. While they're there, they find evidence of this plot where they've got the Krill have this super weapon and they're going to destroy a peaceful farming colony on a nearby planet. So they find a way to leverage one of the Krill's weaknesses, which is light. They like it dark. So they turn the lights up really bright and they kill all the Krill except for the kids. And and they go back home with a copy of the Ankara and they live happily ever after.
So here's the thing. On paper, I love the concept of this episode, but as far as execution, I think it's the weakest so far. And I've seen it twice and I can't quite put my finger on it. But one thing I'll say, I think that held this episode back was I actually thought the sets for the Krill ship were very claustrophobic. However, I did read up on it, and apparently the entire set or sets for the Krill were built inside previously existing sets for the ORVILLE, like the loading bay or something like that.
Oh, really?
So So because of that, like the bridge for the Krill is really small. The hallways are all really claustrophobic. And then when they open up the doors and they have the little chapel, and there's like, you can barely fit like 8 people in there, right? Like, again, I can forgive a lot for like lower budget TV shows, but it just felt unnecessarily cheap looking. And I do like the fact that they wrestled with the moral decision of what to do with these kids. But, cracking open that Bible and then to a random page and just taking pictures felt very haphazard. There must have been a better way to do that. Like, couldn't they have just stolen the book? If they knew that they were going to try and get out of there anyway, why didn't they just steal the Bible?
Yeah, and make that a plot point where this book is so holy where it takes some doing, right? Like it's under constant guard, something like that.
Right. Yeah, so it's that thing where you kind of are a little bit forgiving because it's a comedy, but at the same time they're trying to do this serious social commentary episode, but this Bible is left unguarded, then they sneak in and then they get caught, but there's no consequences, and then they sneak in again, and I don't know, again, it might be biting off more than they can chew. That's what I felt like. I did like the episode, but it was probably my least favorite so far. G.I. Julie, what did you think?
Again, it's the humor that saves the episode for me. Yep. It's such a weird mission. Like, why does the Planetary Union think that this is what's gonna open a dialogue with the Krill? If they have more of an understanding of their religion, because the religion informs their culture. But like, the amount of time that Chris and Devon spend on the Krill ship, you get more insight into the Krill culture than anything I think the Ankana would have told the Planetary Union. That about like how what they think of humans, what they think of other species in the universe. They pretty much believe that everyone else is soulless except for them, which I think is supposed to be like their Christian comparison analogy, right? Is that wrong? Right? He's drawing comparisons to Christianity, Catholicism with the Krill.
Well, I thought it was
any
Islam.
sort of major religion.
Yeah.
Any sort of major religion has these sort of tenets to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's so we learn way more. And why couldn't it have just been a mission where they infiltrate? Or maybe they're saving somebody who has successfully infiltrated and is stuck there or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Why is the Ankana the crux of what they need to find? What is this book going to tell the Planetary Union that they can already find out in different ways?
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of was like, yeah, that was kind of weak as a plot point for me. Other than the fact that I can't even remember what they had said the Ankana would do. Like how it would solve that. What else? The claustrophobia, I actually, not until you had explained why or what the actual the practicals about it, I was like, okay, that makes total sense. And now that I think about it, yeah, the chapel is really tiny. I just thought, hey, they're on a ship and they're kind of like making do with what they can. They worship where they can. So maybe the chapel in the ship is small. No, this is a warring race that has a religion at its core. That chapel should have been huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like cathedral level, plus the Krill ship is huge too. So why then is everything small? Talea, the Krill woman who they meet, who is like a school teacher.
Right.
I didn't like her character at all.
She wasn't great.
No. And there was something about her character that, like, if the Krill is the equivalent of the Klingons, then she is not Klingon. She just seemed like she was like she was a female of their species, and she was doing women's work, which is to teach the children. Whereas the Klingons, I feel like they would recognize anyone can teach the children. Women are equal in their society. It didn't feel like Talea was equal. I mean, they didn't even address it really, so it doesn't really matter. But there was just this, just by making her the school teacher or making the school teacher female, it made her feel like like less than the rest of the Krill on the ship. Like she wasn't a soldier, whereas pretty much everyone else is.
Mm-hmm.
Except for the holy man, but he's also a soldier, you know?
Right.
I don't know. This is probably the weakest episode for me, though I do like the Krill. They're pretty cool.
This episode had I'm agreeing with both of you for sure. This episode felt lazy to me. And lazy in a bunch of different ways. Mike, when you said the point about them building the sets inside of existing sets, that really did like that clicked something in my brain. Like, yes, I didn't really notice that on a conscious level. Subconsciously, I sort of did. I think I might have given it a pass at the time because we're kind of used to seeing that sort of set design in Star Trek type shows, right? Because a lot of these shows were done on lower budgets, even though they did have wide appeal, right? But like when you compared to say like you're watching Deep Space Nine, so like the Bajoran, like on the space station, their little chapel, like it's very small. It's because you really can't build an enormous cathedral, even though, as Jolie says, it would have been absolutely appropriate. The cathedral on a ship for a warring race that is so theocratic would probably be the largest room on the ship, and there should have been hundreds of people there. But you can't do that on a show of this size. But another problem that I had with this episode is that how do I really put this? Like you learn through the struggle with the kids and the school teacher and so on and so forth, and we get glimpses of this too. Previous episodes where that scene where the Krill commander is off center, and then they have a discussion about relationships. This is a race that doesn't think that any other race has a soul, but then you sort of get to know them, and they're not really, like, they're kind of thoughtful, like they amongst their own people, right? So how could a race that is so concerned about their kids and so on and so forth be so close-minded when it comes to like blanket everyone else sucks?
Sure.
Now, I know that there are parallels to you know, especially lately down here on Earth, but it just seems a little like for that to be the prevailing feeling among the Krill. Like it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't mesh with what we see when we get there.
Well, I think they made a really good point. And again, I don't want to get into a soapbox about religion, but at the beginning of the episode, one of the things they said is that most civilizations, when they achieve star travel, like the closer they get to star travel, the farther away they get from religion, and the Krill is an exception. Now, one of the things about the Klingons that always bothered me is the way that they were like this. They were like barbarians in space, and I'm thinking, watching these buffoons interact with each other, I'm like, there is no way these guys could achieve interstellar travel if this is how they treat each other, and this is how they work together. This is how they treat their weak. You know, like I don't know. It just seems like so backward.
They're
and
only
you
good
have
at
to make
smashing things.
Right. There's no scientific minds there. There's no respect for intellectualism in the Klingon culture, and that's how it seems like that's what they're going for with this episode. But you're right. It's almost like everything they showed kind of went against that. But I actually do think, to be honest, though, it was a really good analogy to have them say that they thought they were the only ones that had souls. And again, the analogy that I can think of is like I know Christians right now who think, and I'm sure that most Christians think this, that humans have souls but animals don't. And you get into a debate about that, and you realize that there's no convince. First of all, I don't necessarily think there even is a soul. I don't believe there's a soul. But if you do think there's a soul, and you do think humans have it but animals don't, that automatically puts you above them in your mind, right? That's going to affect the way you treat animals. That's going to affect the way you treat nature. And so to me, if that's the way the Krill think, a really creative science fiction author would have created a society that was almost unrecognizable to us. That's kind of what you're saying, right? There should have been so much more thought put into the way that they act, the way that they treat each other, the way that they treat everything, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but at the end of the day, they're just kind of like people, right?
Gruff humans, yeah, with funny voices, right?
Now you could have made that a plot point too, though. Like if the Planetary Union's understanding that this is how they are, but then when they get there, it's something totally different, or maybe have that this is a faction of the Krill that is sort of taken over, and the populace isn't necessarily happy about it. Instead of just having them all blanket, hey, only we have souls, nobody else.
Right.
But then they're all cool with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I will say that I believe every episode up until this one was written by Seth MacFarlane alone. Mm-hmm. This one was conceived by him, then written by the entire team, finalized by someone else, then completely rewritten again by Seth MacFarlane. So that could be a reason. I mean, then again, you'd think that it'd be better at that point, but I guess not. I guess somehow it got worse. It became one of the weaker episodes.
Yeah,
but
I wonder.
That's partly why.
I wonder if the end was always the same as well. It seems really strange to me, and I couldn't exactly put my finger on it, but the idea that killing all of the Krill, except for the children and the school teacher, was the answer. Like that was the absolute end all to this one. And I feel like even in Star Trek, they wouldn't have killed all the Klingon to achieve
right
an ends to their means. Like they would have found a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like the humans who end up being the monsters here. They're the ones that kill the people.
Yeah,
they saved the colony, certainly, but was that the only way they could save the colony?
Exactly. It seems like a really heavy choice to learn to kind of convey a big lesson like that, and I still don't know that I can. Like they identified enough that there's one, the Krill have children on this vessel, and like how did they outweigh the pros and cons of this whole scenario? Also, how did they live with it after this?
Because not only did they kill them, they burned them alive.
Yes.
And at the end, Talia reminds them, she's like, well, now there's children who will remember what you did, and they are not going to be as forgiving. You had an enemy in the Krill, and now you will definitely have an enemy who's seeking vengeance in the future. It doesn't hit home like as hard when she says it, but it is kind of like a nasty sentiment. Like, so on the next episode where you go into like more uncharted territory, is this always going to be in the back of Gordon and Ed's mind that they killed a species? Like they killed a bunch of Krill?
Right.
It's just it's a lot. It's really heavy.
Right. Again, maybe biting off more than they can chew, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or what is that expression? Their reach exceeds their grasp? Something.
Yeah.
Is that right or is that backwards?
Yeah, I think you got that right.
Yeah. But also, did you like the Star Wars reference when Mercer's like, they're not my enemies? And Talea says, after what they saw you do today, they will be. They will be. But anyway. Also, I gotta bring up 2 gags. We didn't mention the opening scene with Boris when they find out that he can pretty much eat anything. So that they have like, oh, what about okay? They give him, what was it? A cap? Oh yeah, the napkin. Then it was the cactus. Then it was the glass.
Yeah.
And then what's his name? Malloy was like, hold on, I'm gonna go find a bag of nails. And then they get interrupted. That was so funny.
That's too bad they didn't have his leg hanging around from the previous episode.
Yeah, exactly. That was so good.
That comes up in the second best gag of the episode.
What was the second best gag?
Oh, where
when he gets stabbed in the leg?
Stabs him. He's like, oh my God, I just grew that back.
Yeah, that's a brand new leg. That was so funny. Yep.
What was your second gag? The head?
No, I didn't have one. No, the head, I didn't think it was a gag. I thought that was frightening. When they had the human head and they started stabbing it, that was like scarier than anything I've ever seen on Star Trek. That was legitimately scary. Hey?
I forgot about that. I think my mind erased it because that was a little jarring.
Yeah,
it was very jarring. Like, what the hell? That's what I mean. The show, it's like it goes to extremes, right? In a good way.
Let's take the edge off of that one, and with a little fun factoid. Apparently, the head is Tom Savini's head.
Oh, right. I read about that. Yep.
Right.
They decapitated Tom Savini?
Yes. Just for this episode.
So, yeah. I mean, if that adds a little bit more levity for you, sure. So for anyone out there who doesn't know, Tom Savini is an American prosthetic makeup artist, actor, stunt performer, and film director. Okay, that's it. Moving on.
Yeah.
That was a fun fact.
Pretty famous. So I guess we got to decide. So the character we're talking about this episode is Malloy, right?
Whose name we are starting to remember.
Yeah, Gordon Malloy. G.I. Jolie, would you like to go first? What's your opinion of Gordon Malloy?
My favorite thing in the world is a redhead. And Gordon is funny. Gordon is the best friend of Ed. Even though they don't really talk about their past relationship, I've always liked him from the start. He's not overtly misogynistic, but the tendencies are there, and eventually they'll come out. Harder, maybe? I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't matter. I like him. There's just so much. There's so much great. There's so many great sort of tidbits that you learn about him up until this point. Like, we're on episode 6 now, but so far we've gotten like the he drinks at 9 a.m. sort of thing, right? Him and Ed both do it. So like maybe they are each other's. They participated in alcoholism at some point in their best friendship. He's loyal. Again, he gets the good jokes. He gets the really good jokes.
Yes.
He kind of steals the spotlight from like him and Lamar are the helmsman and the is the pilot the same thing as a helmsman?
Yeah,
on Star Trek it's helmsman and navigator. I'm not sure if that's the same distinction.
Right.
That's it. So they're supposed to be those two officers at the front, and he kind of like steals the show a little bit. He gets the bulk of the good lines. So we don't really know much about Lamar, other than he's kind of this like quippy black guy for now. And that he's now I've forgotten his name. Malloy,
yeah, jeez.
What the hell? Anyway, I like him. What about you, Ian?
I like him as well. He's he's funny without being hammy or over the top.
Mm-hmm.
He's a pretty natural. He's got a natural comedic presence. He's written pretty well. Also, him and Mercer's characters, they seem as though they belong together. And I don't know, like Malloy isn't somebody that I'd like to hang out with very much, personally.
Yeah.
But in the context of this show, it's believable. And yeah, I don't really have much more to say about him than that. But he does seem to get the lion's shares of the jokes, and it would be nicer to see Lamar get some of that too, because it's a little bit off balance there, right? Like everything's like all the focus is on Malloy, and not so much on Lamar at all. And that's my only real problem with it. It's not him. It's that they're not doing enough with this other character.
Yeah, and we didn't really talk about it, but in the third episode about a girl, where Kelly needs to prove that it's not, she uses him as sort of a character witness or a witness.
That scene bugged me. I know the scene you're talking about. That scene bugged me.
Yeah, where she's like, sorry, Malloy, I'm going to pretty much throw you under the bus to prove that like being a woman doesn't necessarily mean you're intellectually superior. And she goes on.
Right. That was funny. Anyway.
She goes on to prove, her theory is proved correct when she uses Gordon Malloy as, her proof. And again, I love the idea that they have characters in this show who like seem like the class clown types in the back of your classroom, but like how in the world did they make it through Starfleet?
Right.
How did this buffoon become the best pilot in the galaxy?
And also drinking a beer in the opening episode when he's flying the shuttle into the ship. That was a little ridiculous, I thought.
Yeah.
Hey? But anyway. Yeah,
although he did almost crash it, so I mean he recognized that there's consequences for presumably.
But you pointed out something when you said that he's someone you wouldn't want to hang out with. He just feels like, I think I have hung out with him. It's like, doesn't he hang out at Pogo's? You know what I mean? He's just one of those guys that you feel like you know him, right? And he's one of those guys that I can take him in small doses. That's why. Yeah,
he'll show like a buddy will bring him to your camping trip, and he'll be on the other side of the fire drinking a beer, and he'll be funny for 20 minutes or so, and then it'll get to the point it's like, okay, well, will your buddy just shut up now? We're trying to have a serious conversation over here.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's
100%.
Like Malloy is all comedy.
Yeah.
He's all comedy. He's got a few moments where he turns it off, but it's always there, and it can get a little tiresome.
Yeah.
But it's not over the top, so I can't really complain too much about it.
Yeah, it's like every time he opens his mouth, I cringe a little bit, but I also know that I don't want to say 50-50, but 60-40 he's going to be funny. But there's a 40% chance that it won't be funny, But like the bag of nails, that's a great joke right there, So, it's like you said, he does have a natural comedic presence, so I do like him. But yeah, I guess that's it. I don't know. So this episode, I think we all agree, was probably the weakest one so far, right? But it did bring up it raise some interesting questions, I think.
Yeah, it really does. Just like the next one. But for next time.
Yep. So I don't know. I guess that's it. Listen to every episode of MORE-VILLE, ORVILLE, because we'll be reviewing the entire series for as long as it exists. Let's hope it exists forever, right, folks?
Yes.
Season 3 is coming to Hulu, which we don't have in Canada, do we?
How are we supposed to watch the episodes then?
It's a good question.
We'll be watching them on Disney Plus.
Disney Plus.
I hope so. Yeah, because Disney did buy Fox, which I believe owns ORVILLE, so that's how we're watching the old episodes. At least that's how we are. Ian, I don't know about you, but anyway. So yeah,
I will find some completely legitimate way to watch these episodes.
Right, because you want Seth MacFarlane to get your money, right?
Absolutely. As much of it as you can get.
This is one reason why we are not
Reach into my wallet, Seth. It's in my back pocket. Get down in there.
All right, well, thank you for joining us again for MORE-VILLE, ORVILLE. Join us every week. You can find us wherever podcasts are found. You know where to look. And I want to thank G.I. Jolie and Champ Ian for joining me again. This has been another fun episode.
Thanks so much, guys.
And yes, and until next time, there's more where that came from.